بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وبه نستعين إنه خير ناصر ومعين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين وخاتم النبيين وسيد المرسلين أبي القاسم محمد.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم.
وعلى آل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين. Brothers and sisters in Islam, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
A couple of nights ago we were speaking about an objection that sometimes people bring to accepting Islam or to follow the rules of Islam. And our goal in these series of lectures is to gain a deeper understanding, to understand why we believe what we believe, why we do what we do, so that we can give intelligent responses and understand it at a logical level for ourselves to why it is that we're practicing Muslims. The objection goes like this. They say that I just want to be a good person. And I have a conscience that will tell me how to be good. I'll just follow that. If you want to follow your religion, that's fine. I'm going to do my own thing. You can do your own thing. And so we showed in a logical way that that argument doesn't really hold, because Islam is about delivering somebody towards perfection. And you need Islam. You need the acts of Islam. You need the beliefs of Islam in order to really strive to perfection. And we see examples of people who have achieved really amazing things in their lives. It's been because of their Islam. We give the example of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. Imam Hussein was able to achieve what he did because of his worship and because of his high faith. Imam Hussein, what was it that he and his companions were busy doing the night before Karbala? They were worshipping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And reports say that the sound they were making was like the sound of bees humming. Meaning one person was praying, one person was reciting Quran, one of them was in prostration, weeping. That prostration and that Quran reading and that prayer was their spiritual fuel that allowed them to do what they did the next day. And fight such an amazing, valiant stand against the enemy. Imam Hussein Islam, until the very last moment, he never lets the remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala die from him. It's the remembrance of God that keeps him alive. And he says right before he passes away, before he's killed, he says, Sabran ala qada'ika ya Rab. I'm patient upon your decree, O my Lord. There is no God but you. You judge between me and between them, and you are the best of judges. So it's that remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that keeps him alive. Bidhikrika ahsha qalbi. It's with remembrance of you that my heart is alive, as we're taught in some of the du'as to recite. So the point there is that Islam is necessary if you want to get to perfection. But then the next argument that people will bring, they'll say that what? That's fine. If Islam is this great religion, I'm not going to deny that. But look at the Muslims. Somebody might say, when I look at Muslims and I look at the Muslims I know, they're not necessarily the most inspiring of people. And I'm looking for something. I want to be a good person. I want to be a perfect person. But these aren't the examples that I'd like to be like. If that's what Islam is going to take me towards, then I don't want anything to do with that. And sometimes you see that even Muslims who grow up in families and communities where they don't see too many good role models, they come up with the same line of thinking and they use it as an excuse. They use it as an excuse. They say that I'm not denying that everything you're saying is fine, but if it were true, then I should see the effect on you. But you're not a role model for me. I don't want to become like you. And so they use that as an example to not follow Islam. I'm gonna do my own thing. I'm gonna do what I feel will help me be a good person. So how can we respond to this, that's what I want to discuss tonight, inshallah. First of all, we have to understand that we as Shia Muslims should not be tricked by this type of thinking. Because we never look at the majority and say that what the majority does is indicative of the truth. We know that Imam Ali Islam was the rightful, divinely appointed successor for the Muslims, but the majority didn't accept him, or they accepted somebody else. But does that mean that he's not? No, because the majority can make mistakes. There are other schools of thought within Islam which say that one of the principles of knowing whether or not something is true is to see if the majority of people agree on it, then it has to be true. Because they say that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will not allow the majority to agree on something that's not true. But we don't accept that. We don't believe in the power of the jama'ah as being indicative of something that's true. And that's something that we take from the Quran. The Quranic spirit is that, guess what? The majority of people are not right. Most of the people are wrong. Just look for the word akthar in the Quran. You'll see so many verses. لَكِنَّ أَكْثَرَ النَّاسِ لَا يَشْكُرُونَ. Most of the people in this world are not thankful. وَلَكِنَّ أَكْثَرَ النَّاسِ لَا يَعْلَمُونَ. Most people in this world don't know. وَلَكِنَّ أَكْثَرَ النَّاسِ لَا يُؤْمِنُونَ. Most of these people in this world are not people of faith. They do not have belief. They lack that. Or on the other side, you see that the people who are true in their faith are considered as very little. وَقَلِيلٌ مِّنْ عِبَادِيَ الشُّكُورِ. Very few, a small number of my servants are actually thankful. So the Quranic spirit and even our perspective as being in the minority, it tells us that we never look at the majority to determine what's right and what's wrong. So that's one argument that we can bring. But that still doesn't satisfy us, because if you look at it, you see so many Muslims, or they're called Muslims, but they act in a way that doesn't, sort of inspire admiration and wanting to be like them. And sometimes people say that it's like this factory that's producing mostly damaged goods. Imagine that you have a car factory that's bringing out, like it's producing certain cars. Okay, and the first car that it produces has some problems with the brakes. The second car has a problem with the steering wheel. The third has a problem with the transmission. And then maybe 1 out of 5 is actually a good car. So you could excuse the first problem and send the car back to the manufacturing plant. The second car, fine. But it gets to a point where you say that, wait a minute, what's going on here? There must be something fundamentally wrong with the plant. Because, after all, if the procedure is correct, then it should be producing, very rarely should be producing a car which has a problem in it. So people say that look at the factory of God. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said this is the religion to follow. The factory is not producing models that you can actually use. There's so many defective models with flaws in them. So, what's wrong with the factory? They say that it should be closed down. Now that is not a valid argument. Why is it? What's our response to that? Please rise to Allah. So, the example that somebody brought, you could say that yes, if you're talking about a factory, that factory needs to be shut down. But we would say that no, the example is not the best of examples to use when it comes to the creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And I want to actually propose a different way of explaining and understanding